We are talking about music for all. Yeah, that's a statement that we all want, but it's also an organization doing some really important work on today's PMEA's Take Note podcast. Well, hello everybody, I'm Mark Despotakis. Welcome to this edition of PMEA's Take Note podcast, coming to you from the PMEA Summer Conference this year in Harrisburg. You know, when we're out at the conferences, we like to do some live in-person podcasts, so it's not just on a Zoom screen, which is exciting to be like with real humans again, Absolutely. You know. So the real human I have here with me today is James Stevens from Music for All, and we'll dive into what all that means a little bit later. But thanks for being here on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for calling me a real human.
Yeah. You're here, you're alien. I can vouch if anyone has a question.
Right.
But also thanks for coming out and being part of the conference and doing some presentations. I think
My
it's
pleasure.
fantastic.
It's been great.
Yeah, I mean, people I think resonate. You know, we'll talk a little bit about advocacy in action later, but I think that's something that people here have already resonated with. But you know, we'll tell more people who even aren't here about that. But we'll get to all that.
Okay.
Let's start. I always like to level set with people, like, you know, who in the world are you? Like, you know, give us your bio, give us your thumbnail sketch that kind of led up to you coming to Music for All.
Absolutely. So I'm a music educator of 22, 23 years now. First started my career in Ohio for a while, then New York State, and then Oklahoma. Before coming over to Music for All. Even backing up before then, I am a product of Music for All. As a student, I was part of the programming that currently exists, and it was Music for All and some Bands of America things that really, as a young person, inspired me to go, man, there's a whole world out there, and look at what creative things are being done and the musicianship, and I think I want to teach music, and so that really the organization inspired me. So you know, a number of years ago, it's about 10 years now, I think, where an opportunity presented itself to basically give back to the organization that has done so much for me, as well as give back to the profession and the industry. So now, as the director of education and advocacy at Music for All, which is a not-for-profit organization, our mission is to create, provide, and expand positively life-changing experiences through Music for All. We also have a vision, which is to be a catalyst to ensure that every child across America has access and opportunity to engage in active music making in their scholastic environment. We essentially are a student leadership development institute, if you will, as well as a supporter of educators and really education through the things that we do. So happy to talk more about some of the specifics.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you about Music for All in a second, but let's just go back. You know, you named kind of these, you know, Ohio and these places. Name some of the schools that you've been at. So I think that's important to hear here.
Yeah, no, I maybe skimmed through it a little bit. You know, very, very blessed, I feel, to have, you know, in Ohio, it was some rural school district, Marion Local, Mercer County, Ohio. You know, there's probably less than 400 total students in the high school. I think a couple of those years we had probably 60% were in the band.
Wow.
So that was fun. You know, learned a lot. Jamestown, New York. You know, smack dab between Erie, Pennsylvania, and Buffalo, New York.
Isn't that Lucille Ball's hometown?
Yeah, it is. It is. Lake Chautauqua, lots of lake effect snow. And then in Oklahoma, Tulsa suburb of Broken Arrow for 8 or 9 years.
Some people might have heard of Broken Arrow, maybe.
And like I said, large, medium, small. I feel just really fortunate to have been a part of. There's the grass is greener analogy. I mean, there's something to be said. You can't always wish, if I only had this, if I only had that. There's certainly positives in any. You got to look for the positives. I mean, it's like, I just wish we had more of whatever. Well, sometimes bigger is not always better. Anyway, but have just incredible memories from those experiences, and while being in those states, band particularly, but some orchestra and choral work as well. So yeah.
And what I really think is cool is I see even now in your role at Music for All, you're stable to go out and do some guest conducting and some clinics type stuff. So you're still involved in that way.
I am still involved as long as I have friends out there who call or reach out. Because people say, "Do you miss it?" You can't miss it if you're involved in it or engaged in it. Those were great years. I had great time at those places that I mentioned. So you're absolutely right. As long as you can kind of stay in it, whenever I'm on the podium, back at it, it's a thrill. I enjoy it, and I enjoy getting to meet students and young people from all over the country. It's a great time.
So let's talk a little bit about Music for All. So I think the signature program that people know is Bands of America. Go back, I don't know what the year it was, but Bands of America was its own thing. Music for All was its own thing that looked very different than it is now. And now that's together. Bands of America is a program and Music for All. But you're doing so many more things beyond that. Of course, that's still a pretty large chunk of what you're doing, but there's a lot of other things you're doing. I just loved how you explained, that like it's, I don't remember the exact words, but like student empowerment and like
everything. Yeah, there's a through line of student leadership development in everything that we do. So no, you're correct. I mean, it started in the 1976 as Marching Bands of America. It was our good friend and Bob Morrison, who founded the Music for All Foundation, and Bob Morrison, as most people know him, is everybody's Jedi master of all things advocacy, right?
Yes.
I mean, let's be honest. So that merger took place in about 2006, I think, and has really just opened the door for us to be even more serious, almost moving from an events organization to a advocacy and educational institution is really where we hope to be. The student development and leadership experiences are seen very firsthand in our summer symposium, which was really the premier program. It started as a summer camp in 1976 in Whitewater, Wisconsin, and we just finished a couple weeks ago our I think it's our 47th summer symposium, which was just a fantastic event. Students from all over the country, as well as educators coming to Ball State University now is where we have that. Our national festival, the Music for All National Festival, happens every spring, typically in March. Concert bands, orchestras, chamber music, percussion ensembles, really kind of spotlighting the great work that young people are doing, putting them on a red carpet treatment, almost like athletes get their moment often of being really celebrated. That's kind of what the National Festival is for musicians. And then, as you mentioned, the Bands of America Championships. We're back starting in September, October, and we culminate in November at the Grand National Championships. And it's just it's an exciting season coming up.
Yeah, and even as you look back, probably even 5-6 years ago, you've added all this other stuff. When I say other stuff, I mean the non-Bands of America stuff. But Bands of America is growing. I look at the schedule come out, and I'm like, man, how do you guys have the staff and the humans to be out there and make all this happen? And it's phenomenal. You're just giving.
Know.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. You're just giving this wonderful opportunity to so many more students every time you add a show.
Well, yes, I like to think that, advocacy is what's bringing us together here today. And I think that being a part, if you choose to attend any of our BOA events this fall or watch on the live stream through Box 5 Media, you're being an advocate for music education through your attendance and your support. And you're right, we show no signs of slowing. It's the largest number of events I can't remember if it's 22, 23, 26. I'm bad with numbers. Maybe it's 90. I don't know. But there's all over the country, and it's because we are being called to serve other communities, and we're happy to do it.
Yeah. So, and the word advocacy comes up not only in your title, but in so many of the things that you do. So you have this great program, this Advocacy in Action program. So tell us about what this is, how people can get involved.
Yeah, it is another signature program of Music for All. It's really designed to collect, recognize, and share the best practices or effective practices that music communities have implemented to showcase music education being important in their schools. Advocacy, we talk about this all the time, that is not something that you do once there's danger. It should be a wellness regime as opposed to a 911 emergency. So Advocacy in Action has been designed to really have real practical examples. So what it is, Mark, is essentially a clearinghouse, a archive, if you will, of those best practices that people can go online, take a look at, learn from, and be inspired by, hopefully, and they're ready to be replicated in your own community. So those that apply with the things that they are proud of, and they come in different categories. So we've got recruitment and retention, community engagement, marketing and promotion is one of my favorites to talk about, fundraising and sponsorship. There's parent booster involvement. There's decision maker interaction, how you have your support mechanism being tied to your program, and new this year we have elementary excellence is a new category. So in those different categories, we use an awards program to kind of inspire or motivate people to hopefully apply. Applying is free. It only takes, the only requirement is that your time to fill out the application, which people have told me is very sort of therapeutic to just think about what it is that my program, why we've done this, and what we've learned from it, and all that kind of stuff. And if you're selected as a winner, it's great for two reasons. One, you've been recognized as a national Music for All Advocacy in Action winner, similar to we've talked about the best communities, NAM's best communities for music education. It's similar in that respect, in that you're on this national pedestal. But more important than the award is really just the motivation or the Jedi mind trick that we use to get people to go, oh, we've got a great thing and we could maybe win. But it's really to have that clearinghouse so people can go. I had somebody the other day who called from California and was just like, hey, I spent an hour or two on the website just looking at some of these great examples of things that I now can emulate and replicate, because when you see those examples there, all the blueprints, all the supporting documents of how they did that recruitment initiative or that community engagement piece, we hope that will inspire folks to really advocate for their own programs.
And that is the key to me. I was actually going through a bookshelf a couple weeks ago, and I found this book. Was probably written 20 years ago, and it was about this is a great thing that happened in a music education program, and a lot of it was marketing type stuff, but it was a collection of them. Say there were 20 in the book, and each of them was like a 5 or 6 page narrative. That's cool. Yeah. That's great. But if I wanted to do that, I'd really have to replicate a lot of it just from hearing their story. This is truly a clearinghouse. Like, here's what we did. It's not just the narrative. Here's the flyer. Here's the video. Here's the whatever. So you're actually able to see it. That, to me, is the key that makes this so smart and so successful.
I hope so. I mean, when we were talking about it this morning in the session, people were like taking screen.
Yeah.
I was like, you don't need to do that because it's all
Yeah.
there. People who just go, I want to steal that. You go to conferences, you go to conventions. Most of the time, you're like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. You run into people. A lot of times, it's social to just go. I mean, let's be honest. Any idea that I've ever implemented on my own it has not been my idea. I don't believe something that I borrowed from a friend.
Yeah. So we could talk about this for a long time, but there's so many things that Music for All does we can talk about probably for an hour on each topic. But we talked a little bit about how, you're still out there, you're guest conducting, you're doing clinics, and you're seeing so many programs through all of the things that Music for All does. I'm curious, what are the kind of the trends maybe that you're seeing out there? What makes a program successful? What are the current trends?
Well, one of the most interesting things that we've learned coming out of the crazy time that we know as the pandemic is that, we were forced, I shouldn't say we, I feel like I have to return my educator card because I didn't teach a day of my life during a pandemic. My peers, our colleagues who have been doing that work need to be praised for that. But they were forced to do things differently, or you can't do it that way, and so they had to rethink and recalibrate different things. And in that process, sometimes they have found, oh, this is really a good idea. And so some of those things have been results from the unfortunate pandemic experience. But for example, recruitment is a big thing. We know that when there's a building change, 8th grade to high school or elementary to middle school, that's where you're trying to recruit or retain those students so that they don't go elsewhere into other programs. A lot of times they do recruitment concerts or they visit the elementaries, the high school guys. Well, when they are not able to do that, one of the things that people have been just really creative about is okay, what are some other ways? And they've taken some ideas from the college playbook in that they use hard mail, to reach both students and parents to educate them about their program. They've got these folders. One of them is an example from Texas that is an Advocacy in Action winner this past cycle from Rouse High School, where just a fantastic job of not just what is in the folder, but how they delivered it. And it's one of those things that there's even some videos referenced in there that if you take a look at it, it's pretty remarkable to hear parents talk to parents about why band has been so important for their son or daughter, students talking to students in a way that is especially unique. And this isn't the first time that it's done it, but the way that this this has been encapsulated for this particular recruitment endeavor has paid dividends to the program. Like, it's the largest number of entering 9th graders this school has ever seen, and they're like, we did this out of necessity. I think there's something in this. We can do this and the other thing. Just really pretty special.
Yeah. I think back to an example from several years ago that kind of did the same thing. Was Carmel High School did a trifold, and there's two columns in it, and one is a student writing to a potential future student, and the other is a student writing, and it starts Dear Mom and Dad, and it's writing to parents, potential parents. And then what I thought they were just so smart, they did the video of the student reading that this letter, which is so good, and putting some video clips of what it's like from the parent perspective.
The Dear Mom and Dad from Carmel is one of my favorite advocacy examples, because it really does pull at your heartstrings as a parent to just, time is precious, and those high school years are important, and you sort of don't know what you don't know. So to look at that piece or to read that letter, here's another example from the Rouse High School is student talking to student, parent talking to parent, but they have college admission folks talking
That is really smart.
on video about when we see music people who have spent 4 years in high school in this program, we translate that to this. And they also have employers from big companies like Amazon or something going, when we see people who are part of these music programs at this level, we know that these attributes are within that person, and that's pretty important stuff right there, especially when you have maybe an uninformed parent who was not part of a music program, who might not, they're not going to go into music, so they don't need to do this, or that's going to be too much time. To really think about it from the standpoint of it's about leaders, it's about leadership and that development. I used to always say to my students, there was always some day where we would just go, look, this is not about the next phrase. It's about what are we going to do after here to make this place a better place, this world a better place.
Where can people go to find those examples and potentially to apply?
Yes, advocacy.musicforall.org is where you can go, and applications for this round are open until I think August 14th. So that's happening pretty soon, but go to advocacy.musicforall.org at any time to go through that archive.
That archive is, I mean, you can get lost in there, and it's a good place to get lost because there is so much good stuff. So, all right, so what, looking down the road here, what's on the horizon for Music for All? What's anything different coming up?
We are doing a lot of work with our home. They're in our backyard, Indianapolis Public Schools. It's important work. We have a position right now that is a Music for All staffed position that is a consultant for the Indianapolis Public Schools as a district kind of oversight to look at IPS is going through a reimagining, a rebranding, rebuilding stronger, and they hadn't had the model of elementary, middle, high, and we're looking at helping them institutionalize that through the lens of all fine arts and music, of course. So that's one of the newest things that we're most excited about, and related, I think, to that kind of outreach is when we are in the certain places that we call home annually for a brief period of time. St. Louis comes to mind, San Antonio comes to mind. We have teacher professional development and student performance opportunities that we are very proud to be able to engage with those local communities when we are in those areas. So we're really trying to raise the bar and look at places where, equity matters, and having access to music and all the arts is important, and we're not foolish enough to think that we can be there for everyone, but we do hope, as it says in our vision, to be a catalyst for that change and to at least bring awareness, and so that's constantly front of mind for us.
Yeah, so I would encourage folks to go to musicforall.org just to kind of get a sense of the whole organization, advocacy.musicforall.org for Advocate in Action, but follow their social media channels just to really get a sense of what's constantly going on. And, once the Advocacy in Action Award winners are announced, that's all shared out, so that's kind of your reminder in the social media world. They're great channels to follow. So.
Well, thank you, Mark, for your support of especially Advocacy in Action, because you've been key in helping us formulate that newer initiative.
Well, it is, I've just loved what Music for All has done for so many years, and if I can be just this tiny little piece of anything, it's awesome. So James, again, thanks for being on the podcast. Thanks for joining us here in Harrisburg. I know our members really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been great to visit with everybody. I appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. And so thank all of you as well for joining us on this edition of PME's Take Note podcast. We will see you next time.